Hi, I'm Stevie. I'm a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. The abuse that I experienced as a child feels hard to pinpoint because I've been gaslit so much. I know that there are instances where physical abuse happened, but in my mind, I'm like, it wasn't physical. Clearly, there's a lot of emotional and psychological abuse there, but there was some physical abuse as well. I dated a lot. I was what is known in my hometown area as a homie hopper, a serial dater. I would literally just go from one relationship to the next. A lot of those relationships weren't great, super toxic. When I was in college, I made a promise to myself that I needed to get out of Illinois. I just realized that in order to have a healthy relationship with my family, I needed to have physical distance there. And so I ended up moving to a place called Bozeman, Montana. It was incredible when I first moved here. I felt like I had found a home. But because I didn't know anybody here, of course, you want to start dating. I was 22 and in a new place, want to make friends. And that's when I found the person who abused me. And I feel like I was just right for the picking because he didn't even have to isolate me. I was already isolated. I was 22 years old when I met my main abusive partner. When I first met him, actually, I felt like I got a lot of red flags. We had a date at a bar and it was so awkward. Barely wanted to talk to me. I was like, oh, there's not gonna be a second one. Like, what's wrong with me? So all of these red flags that he was giving, I put it back on myself. The relationship progressed in a way that felt like it was constantly playing tug and war. And now I know that's called the cycle of abuse. But what really hooked me in was I had just moved to this beautiful state. There are mountains and rivers and wildlife everywhere. And he was taking me to explore Montana. And I was able to see parts of the state that I think as a female traveling alone just would have never done. It just felt like a whole new world had opened up for me, which was really exciting. At the same time, there was always still a lot of hesitation. I just remember at one point, I told him, you never say sorry when you do something. And he blew up on me. And this was, maybe a month or two into seeing each other, maybe not even officially dating. Also, at the same time, was realizing that if I left him, I also had really nowhere to go. Now looking back at it, no reason we should have been together. We didn't share, the same goals or visions for our futures. I think in my mind it's hard because I'm like, is that all that you saw in me? Was that I was an easy target? Was there something on your side? Because there really wasn't anything else that should have been bringing us together. Our relationship did get worse. The first time I felt a major apprehension and wanted to do something about it was just a couple months into us dating. He said, you should move in. And I was like, I'm not ready for that. And he's like, well, if you move in with me, you can have a dog. You can't have a dog at your apartment. And shortly after that conversation, I was hospitalized in the ICU for a week. And I remember they did all sorts of testing and nothing was coming back. When he came to the hospital, he'd come in with a soda and there would clearly be in a soda. It was hard for me because all the nurses would be like, oh, he cares about you so much, he comes and visits. But it was always masked with he doesn't want to be here, he's making appearances. It became very clear that his reputation was something he cared about, not me. At the end of it, he was like, well, I guess you have to move in with me now because they never found out what happened to you. And if this ever happens again, I need to be there to take you to the hospital. He definitely started off with a lot of emotional abuse. And the first time that I remember abuse in our relationship was about 6 months in. I had just gotten my wisdom teeth removed. I was especially vulnerable. And I remember the doctor said, oh, take this medicine before you get to the doctor's appointment because it'll help put you out. That morning, it just so happened a lot of things were happening. I had a male friend from my childhood who was passing through Bozeman, Montana and asked if he could stay the night. And I said yes. And I remember he made such a big deal out of it. Am I going to trust you? And I was like, it's one night. We're friends from kindergarten. I've known him my whole life. And so this friend came over. We had dinner, I believe. And then literally he passed out on the couch. Nothing more than that. And I guess the next morning he was feeling very threatened. And that was the first time that I was assaulted by him. I remember that one feeling very manipulative because I had just taken this medicine that I needed to take in order to be out of it. It really showed his true colors to me looking back. Just knowing how vulnerable I was. I don't believe I ever talked to him afterwards. I think I already in that place in my relationship was feeling really scared. I think I did really love him, and I just know now that it wasn't reciprocated. Abuse in the relationship did progress. It did play into other aspects of my life, especially my job. There were things that he did to coworkers of mine. He would harass them or do manipulative things to them. It was just like sinister, the things that he would think of on the spot. Or I was just like, oh my God, I don't like that person, but what? Became very clear to me once I felt unsafe, I can't leave. If he's going to take the license plates off my coworker's car just because I said that she was a little bit mean to me during a meeting, what is he going to do to me? It did escalate to physical abuse. There was one day where I was folding laundry on our bed, and so my back was to our door, and he came up to me and had essentially just tackled me on the bed and just like wrapped my hands behind my back and put my face down into the bed. But I remember feeling like I can't breathe. I was struggling to get out, moving a ton, crazy and frenzied, and I thought, I'm gonna die. And so I just gave up. Life kind of sucks now anyway. Like, I'm trapped in this relationship. I feel unsafe all the time. My family's far away. I don't have many friends here. My friends here are his friends. And I just gave up when that was happening. He was hitting me and pushing my face down. And as soon as I stopped struggling, he gets off and says, well, this isn't fun anymore. In terms of him, apologizing or trying to kind of keep me in the relationship, he didn't have to do much. I never got sorries. I never got thank you gifts. I was never really love bombed. I think I just came from such a damaged childhood, and knowing what my mom had gone through and other abusive dynamics I saw play out, I just assumed this is how relationships worked. I think after this assault, I felt this bigger loyalty to him, which may sound a little backwards. But I tried my hardest to be like, I have to be the sexiest, most like wantable girlfriend to this guy. And maybe in my head, it was like, if I'm putting it out there, then maybe it won't happen when I don't want it to. And right after that instance of sexual assault, that first one, he was rejecting me hard. And I felt so unwanted. It messed with my mind even more, because it's like, well, you can do this to me, but now that I'm approaching you, you want nothing to do with me. And that was almost a cycle that we went through, where it would one way and then the other, one way and the other. And I was constantly just trying to be wanted, but only when I wanted to be wanted. And as soon as I'd give up, it felt like that's when another assault might happen. I knew I was finally done with him when it really affected my career. I had gotten a new job 4 or 5 months before him and I ended up calling it quits, or before I left him, I guess. I was told by my boss that if I did a really good job, I would get to go to this work trip to Hawaii. And so I worked so hard and I got the invitation to go to Hawaii, and I was stoked. Yes. I was so proud of myself, which was such a new feeling for me too at the time. There were so little things that I felt like I could actually take ownership of and be proud of, and this was one of them. And so, of course, he tries to take that away from me. I just remember as soon as I get to Hawaii, all of a sudden, he was super disrespectful of the fact that I was on a work trip, calling me all the time, demanding my attention. Then he started accusing me of sleeping with coworkers or guests at the hotel, and that's why I wasn't responding to him. Threats of like, if you don't answer, I'm gonna throw all of your on the lawn, and when you get home, you're never gonna be able to see your dog again. I would try and run out and be like, I'm doing this for work right now. Can I call you at this time? And the time zones were so messed up. He's like, well, I'll be asleep then, so you need to like adjust your schedule to mine. And I'm freaking out. And finally, it just dawns on me, like, this isn't worth it. Like, you've worked so hard. And I think the moment it really dawned on me was when my supervisor sat me down and she said, hey, I really wanted you to come. What's up? You are not doing a good job this week. And so hearing that type of feedback, I'm so glad that she said it in a graceful way, really sparked something for me, where I was like, whoa. And so she sat me down, and I just remember crying, being like, he just keeps texting me all the time and calling me, and I don't know what to do. And she just patted my back. And the next day I woke up and I called my dad. I remember being like, I'm going to leave him, but I need help. And really getting my family involved. And my family had made it very clear that they did not like him. I called my parents and my best friends back in Montana, and we all made this plan of where we were going to help me leave. Like, literally had to make an escape plan. So I'm in Hawaii, in paradise, right? Like, formulating how this works. And so I was like, okay, my plane should get back on Tuesday. And my dad and my mom were gracious enough, and I'm so fortunate to have this resource where they saved money and got me a moving truck and a storage unit. And so we had all made plans. Okay, you're just gonna have to fake it till you make it, until Friday. And then Friday, call off work. We're all gonna call off work. We're gonna move all your stuff out into the moving truck. We're gonna put it in the storage unit. You'll be fine. And I am so grateful to have the community that I have, because without them, I don't think I'd be here. But yeah, we made this plan, and I leave Hawaii, and my flight was delayed by a day. So there was one more day where I got to be in Hawaii instead of back home. And back home, I was so afraid. I just had to act literally to save my life. I was never like a good theater kid or anything. So it was literally like, yes, sir, like I messed up. I am to blame. I am at fault. How can I make it better? Even though in the back of my head, I'm like, I did nothing wrong here. Friday morning comes and I pretend like I'm going to work. He goes to work. He turns left, I turn right, sort of thing. And then I double back and I go back home. And, minutes later, my friends are there. The moving truck's there. We're moving stuff out. And I think I would have gotten out seamlessly, except for he kept messaging me all day on Facebook Messenger. And how it says seen. And I was like, I'm ignoring this. Like, a couple hours, I'm not going to be in your life anymore. And it was all like, we should get, have dinner plans and go here. Do you want to make reservations? And I was like, not with you. I was ignoring his messages all day, packing everything into the car. Well, he got suspicious and came home over his lunch break. And we were almost done. And I'm just so grateful my best friend's husband was there, because my ex tried to put on this big flare of like, he was trying to be this macho man or something, and was like trying to be intimidating. And my best friend's husband was like, bro, no, you don't scare any of us. Like, her stuff's gone. Say goodbye. It's over. And I was just so grateful he was there. Ooh, we're out of there. Everyone's safe. I was really nervous about guns because he had firearms. I was really nervous about him trying to start a fight, because he would always say, I love fights. I love fighting. It worked out really well. And it's just because of the great friends that I have out here. When he found out when he was there, he obviously got really, really mad. After I left, was just doing everything in his power to cut me down or make me feel bad, manipulate me more. Him and I had a loan together, and he was basically like, well, I'm not paying this anymore. You can pay it. And I just remember going to the bank and being in tears, and that woman clearly knew that I was in an abusive relationship and was trying to do everything that she could to like help me out. It was just this constant battle of him just nitpicking little things to try and upset me all the time. Like, I remember me checking my email became just such this emotional roller coaster, because I had changed my phone so he couldn't text or call me. So he would just email me every day about stupid stuff to just cut me down and make me feel bad. Part that hurt me the most was finding out that he started dating a minor as soon as I left him. They dated for 5 years on and off and ended up getting married as soon as she turned 18, I believe. Her and I are now really, really good friends, which is awesome. But he ended up doing a lot of the same things to her that he did to me. In 2019, she approached me after she had left him for the final time and was like, I think I want to report him for assault. Like, will you go with me? And I was like, you know what? If you do that, I will do that too, just to back your story. And I went into this with the mindset of, I will literally just be a witness. She's reporting him. And what it turned out to be is they took my story as well. And maybe a month or so later, he was arrested. And so he spent 6 months in jail. And so right before the pandemic in December of 2019, we kind of had the court case happen. And I think the part that was hardest for me was, as this progressed, the prosecutor that we had really gave me a lot of hope. You're telling your story, we're getting evidence from both of you. This man is going to go away for a long time. There are multiple felonies here that he's committed against the both of you together. And so I went from being, oh, I could just be a witness, to all of a sudden, this is both of your cases, to nothing's probably going to happen. This is the justice system after all, to, oh, like, something could really happen. Like, this guy could really get put away. And things just kept adding up. Like, when they raided his house, they found firearms in it, and we both had orders of protection against him. And it just seemed like the odds were stacking against him. Court is terrible. It's really re-traumatizing, but he ended up not having to serve any time. And then the crime that he also got in trouble for was when they raided his house, they found a road sign in his house that he stole, and he got in a lot of trouble for that. And so it just felt like the law was prioritizing a road sign over my life and my safety. And it just felt like we had been hyped up the whole 6 months he was in jail, just to be let down majorly. I don't think he's having the same impact that I'm having, or that the other woman who went to court with me is having. It just feels really unfair.